Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something totally unexpected. We're going to bridge a gap of over 1,000 years to uncover a wild connection between ancient scriptures and the pacing of modern cinema. You know, we usually think of slick, psychological media techniques as these modern inventions, right? Cooked up by Hollywood directors in a cutting room. But the reality is actually much deeper and way older. Let's get right into it.
Think about the last movie trailer you watched. What actually happens in those first few seconds? Before the main character even says a single word, you already know if you're buckling in for a heart-pounding thriller, a massive sci-fi epic, or a quiet drama. It's just a quick sequence of fast-paced cuts, but it instantly communicates the entire genre and vibe of a 2-hour film. It's this incredibly efficient trick to set the stage in our minds. It completely bypasses our logical filters and just makes us feel the tone right out of the gate.
Section 1. The trailer effect and how ancient texts use modern pacing.
So, could ancient texts actually work like cinematic trailers? Well, according to the analysis of the prominent Islamic scholar Bediüzzaman, there is a brilliant literary technique happening in 3 specific chapters of the Quran: Tekvir, Infitar, and Inshikak. We're going to use these 3 texts as our main case studies today. Bediüzzaman noticed that the openings of these chapters don't just read like your standard slow-building poetry. Not at all. Instead, they act as this sequence of striking, highly visual beats, and they're designed to immediately prime the audience for massive, unimaginable cosmic events.
Imagine the rapid-fire cuts of a summer blockbuster hitting the screen in a pitch-black theater. Bam! When the sky is cleft asunder, it drops you literally right into the middle of the action. Notice how there's no slow build-up here, no long-winded exposition setting up the state of the universe, none of that. It's a sudden, sharp, highly visual hook. It demands your absolute attention and rapidly pulls you straight into the sheer awe and scale of the text.
And then boom, another quick cut, when the sky is split open. The rhythm just keeps going, relentless and super evocative. This kind of pacing builds incredible narrative tension in just a handful of words. It's exactly what a masterful director does in those first crucial 10 seconds of a film to make sure you absolutely cannot look away. The text is literally building a cosmic, world-ending stage right in front of us, layer by layer, fast cut by fast cut.
But then, the pacing shifts. When the sun is folded up and its light extinguished, we suddenly move from this rapid, violent action to a majestic, contemplative hold. Just let the massive scale of a darkened, folded sun truly sink in for a second. It's a brilliant illustration of how perfectly the text manipulates pacing. It's exactly like a modern trailer suddenly dropping the bass and fading to pitch black before the title card. This imagery just leaves us sitting in the profound, quiet weight of a completely transformed universe.
Section 2. Familiar patterns. Bridging the earthly and the cosmic.
So why use this specific dramatic language? Well, Bediüzzaman points out it's actually a deeply psychological tool, one that's perfectly designed to bridge the gap between our everyday reality and these totally unimaginable cosmic events. Think about the familiar earthly cycles we already know so well. The quote-unquote death of nature in autumn, right? The falling leaves, the bare trees, the frozen ground, and then the miraculous resurrection of life in the spring. We are incredibly used to these massive cyclical shifts. By mirroring these familiar seasonal rhythms, the text makes the unfathomable scale of cosmic destruction and rebirth on the galactic level so much easier for the human brain to actually process and accept.
And that brings us to a really fascinating psychological concept, the soft transition. Basically, this is a literary technique that prepares the human mind for a massive change by taking a known, familiar pattern and gently scaling it up. This isn't just about shock value. If you rely on sudden, sheer absurdity, the brain might just reject it entirely. Instead, it's this incredibly smart psychological approach. It leverages the everyday patterns of death and rebirth that your mind already inherently gets, and it just gently turns the dial all the way up to a cosmic level.
Section 3. Preparation for the Great Change. The culmination of the trailer effect.
So because of those rapid-fire cuts we saw earlier, combined with that grounding in familiar earthly seasons, the audience is now completely primed. This soft transition has perfectly set the stage for us to face the ultimate cosmic reality without just instantly rejecting it as impossible to comprehend. Listen how powerfully it all comes together in these verses from the Infitar Surah. When the sky is cleft asunder, when the stars are scattered, when the oceans are burst forth. It's just an absolutely breathtaking image. But notice how, as you hear it right now, Having walked through this analysis, your mind can actually begin to visualize this totally unimaginable event. And that is the true genius of the technique. The earlier trailer cuts and that clever anchoring in familiar worldly patterns have successfully expanded our imaginations, completely preparing us to witness the end of the universe itself.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought to take away today. Have you ever noticed how the opening of a text, a movie, or a show gently prepares your mind for a massive, unimaginable idea? We almost always think of these psychological pacing tools as modern inventions, but as we've seen in this explainer, these sophisticated soft transitions have actually been captivating and guiding audiences for centuries upon centuries. So the next time you sit down to watch a modern movie trailer or read the very first page of an epic book, ask yourself, how is this creator quietly preparing my mind for the massive journey ahead? Thanks so much for exploring this awesome intersection of ancient text, literary structure, and human psychology with us. Keep looking for those patterns, and we'll catch you next time.